welcome to the Hallmarkies podcast, and we are back to the 90s. This is very exciting. We are going back to the time that I was a teen, way back in the 90s, and we are going to be ranking the rom-coms of the 1990s, and I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and Terry's here.
Hi.
And how are you doing?
Pretty good.
You ready for this?
I'm ready.
And I tried with my list to really pick the 12 that I loved in the 90s that I had. So there's a couple very popular ones that aren't on my list, but I do enjoy them. It's just they weren't favorites of mine. With the exception of one. There's only one that I kind of discovered later. But I don't know, I just wanted it to be a really authentic get to know Rachel list.
Yeah, the same with me. Like I didn't want to put too many that we've already discussed before on the list.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we keep talking about these same movies because they're so good, but I really put in ones that I watched a lot.
Yeah.
Especially in the 90s, you know.
Mm-hmm. And there were a couple that I've gotten enough feedback on that people are like, it's not a romantic comedy. So like Before Sunrise, I got enough people saying it's not a romantic comedy. I didn't include it on this list, even though it's on the indie list. I think that for sure the sequels aren't, but there's still debate about that first one. Yeah. But fair enough. I didn't have it on. But especially there's two that are very popular that are not on my list. But we'll see if they're on your list, and if not, we can talk about them. But that's what makes this fun. Everybody has their own unique list.
Usually, I don't go for the popular ones myself.
Yeah.
I always tend to like the ones nobody talks about.
Yeah, I mean, it was such an amazing era.
Totally. There's so many to pick from.
Yeah, into the early 2000s. I feel like kind of that Sex and the City era was kind of sort of the end of the rom-com era, and then we had like the Judd Apatow years, and then the 2010s. It was rough.
Boy, that's a sad era. That's a sad
time.
Because there's still some, because I was looking at the early 2000s, there's still some bangers in there, but like,
yeah,
it comes to 2009, 2010, we start hitting the pit.
Yeah, it really is.
Not worth it.
It's going to be interesting doing that ranking, that's for sure.
The struggle.
Yeah. But yeah, there's a reason why everyone turned to Hallmark in right around like 2014 to 2016.
Right. Be making that list, listening to Carrie Underwood's Jesus Take the Wheel.
Yeah. Yes. All right. Well, let's dive in. And we are going to talk about some of our patrons' picks. So if you want to be involved in these rankings, if you think that we're always crazy, then join the Patreon and you can be a part of these episodes. So check that out. We'd really appreciate it. And so Terry, what's your number 12?
Well, I went for a movie that I love and nobody remembers, except for you, Rachel, but it's The Beautician and the Beast with Fran Drescher and Timothy Dalton, you know? I love this movie. Ma, you fed the chicken? What was I supposed to make a new meal for him? Basically, it's the nanny. You know, she's a cosmopolitan in New York, and I forgot who he is. The guy who helps this dictator in some fake Eastern European country.
Yes,
she's a science teacher. He mistakes her because she's teaching at the cosmopolitan school, and she's in between jobs to be a teacher. And she takes it, and she goes to this whole place, and takes these children in and turns their lives around, and fights for the freedom, because he's a bona fide dictator,
I also have this at 12. I love this movie.
Okay, I love this movie.
If people ask me what like a guilty pleasure movie is, I usually go with this, not because I feel guilt, but because I feel like it's in the spirit of the question, like I know this is not a great film, but it it makes me laugh, and
Yeah,
it's very sweet, and yeah, it's basically The Nanny, which I love, of course.
yeah, it's a different spin on the nanny, and it's
Uh-huh.
really funny. She
Yeah.
has a I love her Norma Ray, right?
Yeah,
The
Norma
moment when
Ray.
she's like, you have an election,
Well, it's
she's gallivanting the people to have an election, and she works for the dictator.
especially now, that she's like this union leader.
Oh yeah,
It's
oh
like
yeah, totally. And you know
especially.
what? I think Timothy Dalton is pretty good here. He's playing it straight. He's in on the joke and he's playing it straight, and it's so delightful. It's on Pluto TV if anybody wants to check it out.
Mhm.
Um, but it's delightful.
It's really funny, and I think especially if you like the Hallmark, if you like the Hallmark royal movies, then you'll
Oh
like
yeah.
this. I mean,
I mean,
that's
like
what it is basically.
it is, but he's a ruthless dictator, but it still
Yeah,
counts because he's got a
yeah,
heart and he's got 5 kids.
yeah. I mean, he's not like he is ruthless, but like they never really show him doing
No.
anything
And it
ruthless.
kind of has a rift of The Sound of Music, sort of.
Yeah, or
With
like
the
the
way the
DMI.
kids look and dress and how he's barking his
Yeah,
orders,
yeah.
got a little bit of
Which
that as
was the
well.
inspiration for The Nanny. So,
Yeah, so
mm.
anyway,
Yeah, I'm glad
can't
you.
praise this movie enough.
I'm glad you had it. Well, what is your number 11 then?
My number 11 is Straight Talk,
Hmm.
and that's with Dolly Parton and
Yeah.
James Woods. Basically, I don't know if you've ever seen this one. Oh God, I love Dolly. Basically, she teaches like dance. She lives in a small town. She teaches dance. She's on her third husband. It ain't going great. So she packs a bag and leaves. She's going to start in a new city fresh. She goes to Chicago. She's looking for jobs. And she's on a bridge and she throws a penny off the bridge or a nickel or whatever, but her $20 bill falls. And so the meet cute with James Woods is that she goes over the bridge kind of to try to get the $20. She's got her high heels on, sticking with the gum, but James Woods thinks she's trying to commit suicide and grabs her, and she starts yelling at him, saying she lost her $20. But so that's their meet cute,
Hmm.
and basically she goes in for a job at a radio station, gets hired, accidentally takes over the advice radio segment and becomes like everybody loves her because she's giving out all this dishy advice. And so the radio company like fire her but then bring her back because everybody was asking for her, but they make a fake persona that she's some kind of doctor. And James Woods sees this and he's like, oh no, she was arguing me about $20, and he's a reporter, so he's there and they interact and they date and he's trying to find out the truth. So it's a pretty standard rom-com, but it's funny and the soundtrack is great.
Hmm.
Oh my gosh, it's like all Dolly Parton music. She wrote new music. She rearranged Light of a Clear Blue Mountain. It's great. I mean, just listen for the soundtrack alone. But it's a fun movie.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember thinking it was fun,
Yeah.
and Dolly rocking the 90s fashion in
Oh,
that.
totally. I mean, she's top dollar. There's this great part where she's desperate for work, so she's like a dancer, right? So she goes to this place. Oh, I know how to dance. And it's a strip bar, and the guy's yelling,
Oh yeah.
yelling like, "Show us your goods," and she's like, "I don't think so." And Dolly's always likes to. She
Yeah.
could take a good joke, make fun of herself and stuff. So
Yeah. So
really
I love
funny.
Dolly.
Yeah.
Well, my number 11 is actually where I have Sleepless in Seattle.
Hmm.
And I struggle a little bit with this one because to me, what I like more about the movie is the more emotional
Right.
parts. And so I do think it counts as a rom-com. There are quite a few jokes and it is
Yes.
pretty funny. But I don't know, just what's more resonant to me is the I think it is one of the most beautiful films about grief, and has some of the way Nora writes about breathing in and breathing out, and one day I won't have to breathe in and breathe out, that the
Yeah.
way that he talks about his wife, and it's just absolutely beautiful. It's also very unique in the sense that these two people don't meet until the end of the movie,
Yeah.
and what that it means for, I think it helps that it's a couple that we are invested in. They'd already done a movie together, and so we know that they have such good chemistry. I think it's hilarious that Bill Pullman is the wrong guy because like
He's
he has
so
allergies.
I know.
Like, how dare
He's
he?
such
He's a
a good
terrible person.
boyfriend. I know.
He's such a loser. He has allergies. Uh, but I do love when their breakup and he says, marriage is hard enough without beginning it
Oh,
with
I know.
low
He's even
expectations.
so good at that at the
Yeah, that's a
breakup.
great line. And it's a great script from Nora Ephron, uh, and great leads. And I love when she's peeling the apple and listening to
Oh
him.
yeah.
And
She's so upset with her because she's getting
yeah.
emotional. She's upset with
Mm-hmm.
herself.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's great.
It's
It didn't make my
it's really
list
good.
though. Yeah.
I
I I contemplated it putting on, but then I thought it took me like I didn't like this movie at first. Like I liked it, but it took me like a rewatch way until I was an adult to like recently when we were talking about Meg Ryan movies for me to
Mhm.
reevaluate and appreciate that movie. So I thought it wasn't really me in the 90s because I was kind of surly. So it
Well,
wasn't really me.
yeah, yeah. It's just
Yeah.
it's a really sad movie for
Yeah.
rom-com. It
Hopeful
really
too,
is.
though.
Yeah. And I just, but there are some really funny lines, like
Yeah.
when they talk about like the Dirty Dozen.
Yeah.
It's a big love letter to cinema, is what it
I
is,
don't
about
really know
a
what I would do to my kid if he called in like a therapist line on the radio. I don't know what I would do. I'd be like, excuse me.
Yeah, and I love it. He's like, this is helpful. This is good.
Whoa. I would have hung up the phone right away and I would have been like, go to your room and never come out. And he's over there,
I love
he's
that
fine.
houseboat they lives
Oh,
on.
it's so great. Yeah.
All right. What do you have next?
I have Gross Point Blank,
Okay, yeah, that's a good one.
with John Cusack and Minnie Driver. And Joan Cusack is in it too. So basically, John Cusack plays a hitman. He is unsatisfied in life and is perhaps thinking of retiring. He's got a hit to do back in his hometown, so he travels there. But it coincidentally uh, is at the same time as his high school reunion, and he meets up with Minnie Driver, who's his former high school sweetheart, and he meets up with his former best friend, which I can't remember the name of the actor, but it was, and he's a well-known actor too today, and I can't remember his name. Um, but basically, he doesn't do the hit, and like somebody dies during the during the reunion, and him and his best friend got to throw the body in the high school incinerator because for some strange reason the high school has an incinerator, and Dan Aykroyd plays one of the hitmen that has to go now kill John Cusack because he wants to leave the business. And it's just so stupid but silly, and I don't know, it's very funny, you
Yeah,
know.
I've never seen this one, but
I'd recommend it.
yeah,
It's like, I don't know if it'd be your jam or whatever, but it's kind
one of
of
my
funny.
blind spots.
Yeah, it's like it's kind of unique for, because he's a stone cold killer and he's
Hmm.
unhappy because he's gotten bored, with killing everybody, so
Hmm.
it's an
Yeah.
unusual rom-com, but it's pretty funny.
Well, my next one is one of the movies that I call sleepover movie, and this was the kind of movie that I would watch with my girlfriends and at a sleepover, and would love, like, girls just want to have fun, Dirty Dancing, if we were being sneaky. My
Same.
mom wouldn't have allowed that, but Footloose, movies like that, that we would love it. A lot of times involving some kind of dance. In this case, it's ice skating, which was equally equally swoon worthy as a teen.
Oh
It's The
yeah.
Cutting Edge. It's
Yeah.
a favorite of mine. They have great chemistry, great enemies to lovers. The final uh Pachinko thing that they do is ridiculous, but it's really fun.
Hey, it spawned 3 sequels.
Yes.
Like
Which
another
are,
movie and I think 2 TV movies or
yeah,
whatever.
which are not good, the sequels, but they're fun enough. We actually did an episode of the podcast way back, I think 2018. I think the Olympics or something. I am not sure, but anyway, we did a whole episode of the podcast on all the cutting edge movies early on, and I just there aren't that many movies actually about the Olympics. It's interesting because you would think
No.
that it would have such natural drama. You think the Olympics would be very cinematic, but there's really not that many. And
No. No.
there's like Cool Runnings and Cutting Edge, and of course Chariots of Fire. There's a few, but
Yeah.
not as many as you'd think.
Yeah. Cool Runnings is great too. Oh, I think there's a hockey one. I can't remember the name of it.
The only thing about Cool Runnings is literally everything is fake. Like
Oh yeah.
everything, like aside from the fact that they were
I will.
Jamaican bobsled, like all the details are all
I
wrong.
will forgive it because that movie is hysterical. There's just some things you have to forgive, Rachel.
It was shocking when I found. I mean, like I don't know. You just figured that like some of it, like everything.
But yeah, I do love an ice skating movie,
Yeah.
and we get a lot of that. I kind of fell off of it, but my mom and I spent many years being hardcore watchers of ice dance and ice skating and
Mm-hmm.
couples and all that stuff for the Olympics and just when they competed. And of course, everybody that we watched is retired now. So, but like back in the day, it was all for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know. But
Well,
I love how this was your sleepover movie because my sleepover movies were a bit different, Rachel. They were Dirty Dancing, of course,
Yes.
Lambada,
Oh.
and Cocktail with Tom Cruise.
Oh.
Don't ask me why,
I've never
but it
seen
was
that.
something we watched a lot. And oh gosh, what is that movie? About the girl who dances and she works at a steel mill. What is the name of
Oh,
that movie?
Flashdance.
Flashdance, that's it.
Yeah.
That's what we watched all the time, every weekend.
Some
I
form
can't.
of dance if it was
Yeah, there was a
involved.
lot of dance in there. Throw in Cocktail. I don't know what Cocktail was doing in there, but we watched that like every other weekend.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you have at 9?
Never Been Kissed with
Mm-hmm.
Drew Barrymore and Michael Vartan. Um, I don't know why this is such a simple sort of rom-com, but I like it very much. And Drew Barrymore did like a lot of these rom-coms. Some of them were low budget and stuff. She really popped back into that world in the late 90s. But this one she's a reporter. She's kind of frumpy, but she's never been kissed and she was never cool and she has to go undercover at a high school. And she for some kind of I can't exactly remember what the article was going to be about, but she is not popular when she goes in. So she's got to get so her brother David Arquette pretends to be a high schooler too to get to also go undercover and make sure that she becomes popular so she can finally live her life, her dream of being popular because he was popular in school. And of course, Michael Vartan is the one of her high school teachers, and there's an attraction going on, and he's not going into it, but clearly there's a vibe going, which makes her editors go, "We've got a story here about this guy trying to date a teenager," which that's not what's going on, but I don't know, it's really funny. And of course, the big reveal and upset, what you'd expect happens, but I don't know, it's silly. I watched this movie on an airplane. That's how I first watched it. So it's always stuck with me.
Where were you traveling?
Where was I going? I can't even remember. It must have been California.
Mm.
But yeah, I've had a lot of first airplane movies. But yeah, this was totally on an airplane.
Yeah. It's It's a good one. I enjoy it too.
Ho, ho, ho! We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies Patreon.
Do you love Hallmarkies podcast, especially at Christmas?
Do you enjoy the holiday previews, recaps, interviews, and bonus episodes?
If the answer is yes, please consider supporting the Hallmarkies Patreon. We need your help to do what we do both during the Christmas season and all year round.
But not only do you help a podcast led by strong, independent women by becoming a Patreon, you get to become a part of the Hallmarkies family.
Starting at only $2 a month as a patron, you will have access to our Facebook Patreon group where we talk about the movies, shows, and more all year.
We also have many monthly patron watch-alongs with guests like Lacey Chabert, Natalie Hall, Paul Campbell, Mary Lou Henner, and more, giving their behind-the-scenes details of their films.
As a patron, you also have the chance to provide input into the podcast and even join us at different tiers.
So this Christmas season, spread some cheer to the Hallmarkies Patreon and become a member today. You won't regret it.
Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies to learn more.
That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
I have for my next one is where I debated with this one because it's not like a laugh riot, but I don't know. I just feel like it counts. I have because Never Been Kissed for me is like kind of my nightmare, the idea of having to go back to high school.
Oh man, totally.
So I'm like, totally. I don't know.
And she fails so hard when she first goes back to, it's hysterical.
My favorite scene though in Never Been Kissed is when she's eating that pie.
Oh.
And she's like, I ate the whole pie.
Man, though.
It's a pot
I
pie.
really felt like she was kind of like me in
yeah.
many situations. And
that's why like the awkwardness is
totally
it's one of those
very relatable.
A lot of the laughs are awkward laughs, and I'm just like,
when her flashbacks to what she looked like in high school, I was like, poor baby, I feel you.
You couldn't pay me enough. No way. Okay. Well, my number 9 is where I have Ever After.
Oh yeah.
Drew Barrymore.
I debated this one, but
yeah.
I don't know. I was trying to stay more contemporary for the 90s, but I also don't know if I consider that one because I guess I think of it more as a fairy tale.
Yeah.
And not as a rom.
Well, I had the original. I had 1950 Cinderella in our classic ranking.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you could say that one has a little bit more laughs.
Oh no, but it's a great movie too, though. Like
I just love Ever After so
Ever After is
much.
great.
It's like the thinking person's Cinderella, It's
totally.
Like
what a way to like reinvent. To freshen up the tale. Yeah.
Yeah, she's got this like library in the woods and the fairy godmother's Da Vinci and
that's crazy. That part is wild. That part is wild though. Yeah. I mean, but they look so good together.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and the beautiful reveal at the party with the butterfly wings. The costumes were great in this movie.
I love the costumes. Angelica Houston is so good.
Oh, so good.
As the wicked stepmother, Baroness Redmilla de Ghent. And I love her. Both the stepsisters are great, especially Melanie Linsky, really good. They have such good chemistry, and you're just rooting for her. You want her to be happy, and she's like reading Utopia and stuff like that. This is a very 90s version of Cinderella, but totally. I really do love it. So
it is great.
Yeah. So that had to make my list. What do you have at 8?
Boomerang. With Eddie Murphy and Robin Gibbons and Halle Berry, a whole bunch of people. I like this movie because Eddie Murphy he's a womanizer. And he falls for his new boss, Robin Gibbons, and she treats him like he treats all the women. So basically he becomes a woman usually, like he becomes, because we usually see like the woman suffering. Oh, this guy treated me like crap. And he has a complete meltdown. He can't handle that. It shatters his world. You know, he's hooked on this woman. He really feels for her, and she's just treating him like he treated all his other women, like, you know, like a man would treat a woman. Or and Holly Berry plays her assistant, and she's also dating his friend. And of course, they get very close, and then it's kind of a triangle or a quad. So basically, you know, it's very funny. It's Eddie Murphy at his peak, at his height, and I don't know. I just found it.
Yeah.
Him not being able to process that he's being treated like, oh, she only wants to watch a sport. She doesn't want to be with me, you know, and it's so funny, you know, the reversal of it. So
yeah, that's a good one. That's a good one. Well, my number 8 is where I have Emma, and this is probably the movie that I watched the most. Maybe Emma or Clueless, which that's ironic. But yeah, I watched it over and over and over again. I absolutely loved it. I mean, there are things about it that that now that we have so many great versions of Emma, that it's like, is it the best version? No, but and you can listen. We have a whole ranking of all the different Emmas that we did when the new one came out. But Toni Collette is miscast in it. The wigs are terrible, but I love Gwyneth in this. I think she's great.
you
don't like her? Jeremy Northam is great as
He's
Knightley.
Good. He's good. Emma. This is a man. Like, this is all we had. Like, Emma really came around because of Sense and Sensibility with Emma Thompson and the Persuasion, and it was just like an explosion of Jane Austen. And I would take all of that, you know.
But you just were not a fan of Gwyneth in the 90s, huh? Because you didn't like Shakespeare in Love. You didn't like Sliding Doors.
You didn't like Shakespeare in Love. No, you know what? It's very. Oh my gosh! That you put it. Nothing against Gwyneth Paltrow, but she's never excited me in anything she's done.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's hard to connect with somebody. There are so many actors that people love that I'm like, you know.
I wouldn't say I love her, but I liked her in the 90s, I guess. But I like her in this, and Juliet Stevenson, I think, is the one who plays Mrs. Elton. She's absolutely hilarious.
Yes,
she's
she is.
Like, I never compliment myself, but my friends tell me I know how to make a sandwich. She's so good.
Oh yeah,
she's my favorite. And then it has Sophie Thompson as Miss Bates, and that's Emma Thompson's sister.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she's in Persuasion too, right? Sophie Thompson.
Yes, she plays the sister. She plays Mary, and she's great. And Alan Cumming as Mr. Elton, he's good.
It's a great cast. It's got a really solid cast.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I watched it a lot.
Oh, sure. But like, this was also the rotation for me, you know, because I'll take all the, you know, it was an explosion. The 90s were an explosion of Jane Austen. It was wonderful. Yeah. It was a wonderful time.
And I do love how they do the proposal. Like, it might be my favorite proposal, because one of the nice things about Emma that separates itself from the other Austen novels is that it actually has romantic dialogue between Emma and Knightley. They have so much back and forth, where really in the other ones, there's not much. And like in Pride and Prejudice, Jane Austen will say things like, he said what was appropriate for a man desperately in love, or you're like, no, it's that. And Emma's really the only one that she does that and gives us that dialogue.
Right, because they have so much, because they have the most interaction than anybody else.
Yeah, and I love that it has, and now I need not call you Mr. Knightley. I can call you my Mr. Knightley. Such a great line.
Yeah, it is.
So what do you have at 7?
I have Blast from the Past.
Yeah.
With Brendan Fraser and Alicia Silverstone.
Mm-hmm.
And so Christopher Walken and Sissy Spacek play his parents. And it's the late 60s, and it's like, oh, the bomb's going to come, and he's built a state-of-the-art bomb shelter. And he thinks that they're being bombed by the Russians, you know, the big scare or whatever that was at that time. And he hauls his pregnant wife, you know, into the bomb shelter. And they spent the next 35 years there raising their son. and they're running low on supplies, and they're like, the world has been taken over by a nuclear, it's a nuclear bomb, and who knows what they're gonna look like. And Brendan Fraser goes up into the real world, and it is a complete culture shock. He meets Alicia Silverstone, but he's so very old school in like the today's world because he's been brought up essentially in a bubble. And I don't know, they had great chemistry. There's a great dance scene at a club. And she's like, look at this weirdo. And I don't know.
Nobody played this kind of character better than Brendan Fraser. I mean,
totally.
If you think about it, he was a jungle man, George of the Jungle.
Great movie.
He was a guy in a shelter, whatever, blast from the past.
Right.
He was Encino Man.
Yeah.
he was.
Yeah. I mean, there is just something so, like, he's gullible, but he's cute and he's sincere. And there's only something that he really had a lock on that type of character where he could, it's like, oh my gosh, he was so sincere. Like, it comes across, you can't help but root for him, and his optimism and his like, but.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he had like a simple sort of sweetness about him.
Yeah, it's real sweetness about him. And the movie's like, I don't know how well like people remember it. I believe it was, I think I have a memory of it doing somewhat well. But I don't know, this was at the tail end of the 90s, but it's still very enjoyable. I remember my mother and I think my sister was with us. We went to go see this at the theater and we laughed so much over it. Yeah. So
it does have a following. When I reviewed it for my family movie night section that I have over on my channel, there was a lot of people coming on saying that they loved it and that it was a favorite. So yeah, it definitely there's, and I think I saw somewhere that Alicia said it was one of her like favorite movies that she ever made.
I think it was a TNT staple, like it always gave on the TNT network, like in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people were more exposed to it that way too.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, my number 7 is where I have Notting Hill. We talked about this in the indie because we were talking about Richard Curtis.
Right.
But I think that there's a couple of really special things about this movie. I think that the scene where they are at his sister's birthday and all the friends and just talking who deserves the brownie the most. It's such a well-written scene. I absolutely love all the friendships that you have there.
The supporting cast is the best part of this movie.
And I love that he has the friend in the wheelchair and it's just like not a thing. It's like,
the great Gina McKee.
Yeah, she's lovely. And that's just a subtle, there are a lot of like subtle little details that I love in this movie.
It's a great friendship movie too.
I think it's also one of the rom-coms that's like genuinely the most funny to me. The whole horse and hound thing is so funny to me.
I do enjoy this movie.
I love, and I do think they have nice chemistry. And the whole I'm just a girl standing in front of a boy asking him to love her.
I do like this movie. I have the DVD somewhere. I know I have this DVD somewhere of this movie. I almost wish it didn't have Julia Roberts in it, though. But I wouldn't know who else to put into that role. But it is a really fun movie. And I think the best part is the friendships. It's like a great friendship movie, too.
I mean, and you have to give her some credit because she like says that she had these surgeries and other things like that. Her character, but like it did sort of, because she's basically kind of playing herself in the movie. And so I think that's pretty impressive what she does. And I think I can't imagine anyone else. I mean, especially after Pretty Woman, like there was nobody else that could play this role at that time. I mean, she was perfectly cast for it. And the whole idea of a normal person falling in love with a celebrity, and this is kind of like a modern version of Roman Holiday with like a little bit of a different ending. But I don't know, all the horse and hound stuff to me is really funny. And then like them racing through the streets, at the end and trying to get to the news conference. And when
they all pack up into the car. That's great. That's a great moment.
Yeah. Or did you use any horses or we would have liked to. It was in space.
Oh,
That was difficult. So yeah, it's my number 7. What do you have at 6?
The Wedding Singer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think this is the first pairing, I think, with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so funny. They're both engaged to the wrong person. He's in a band. He's basically in a cover band, and he sings at weddings, gigs. Drew Barrymore's a waitress. They meet at a wedding. They become fast friends. She's got like an inconsiderate fiance who can't commit to setting the date for their marriage. He gets left at the altar and gets super depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And one of my
It's
favorite
very funny.
lines in the movie is like, "Take off my Van Halen," when like she comes back to talk to him.
For the
He's like,
band
"Take
breaks
off
up.
my Van Halen shirt. You're gonna jinx the band. They're gonna break up," because this is a movie set in the 80s.
Right.
And that's one of my
Yeah, that's a
favorite
good
like
line.
lines. It's so like it means nothing, but it's just
Mm-hmm.
as it meant something to me. It was like, yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
It was tough.
Very
That
funny.
that moment was tough in life. And I don't know. It's
And
so
Julia Gulia.
oh, rapping Granny. Just
Yeah.
a lot of silly stuff, but it's so cute.
I want to
And they
make
have
you
really good chemistry
smile whenever
together.
you're
Yeah.
sad.
Oh yeah, because
Yeah.
he starts playing weddings, but he's so depressed still,
Yeah.
so like sad that he got dumped. That he's just playing like sad music. And
Yeah.
he's like, it's all his love is just sham, in the middle of people's weddings.
I am not in the Adam Sandler hive. I find him mostly annoying.
Yeah,
But this is the one
same.
that
This is the one. Like he's got like a few good ones in there, and it's not the ones that I like. The ones that nobody talks about. Like everybody talks about, I can't even remember the name. The one where he beats up Bob Barker. I can't even remember the name of that
Happy
one.
Gilmore.
That's it. Everybody talks about those. That one's fine and stuff. But I like these like little sweeter ones,
Yeah. Yeah. The Wedding Singer and 50 First Dates. I wish it didn't have the gross out humor, but it is still pretty sweet.
I didn't like the one they did where they go to Africa. I can't remember the name of that one.
That was bad.
It is bad, but I was like, I forgive this movie because I just like them together.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And, he has like Punch Drunk Love and some of his more artsy ones. And I usually like Adam Sandler better when he's in somebody else's hands, not in Happy Madison, not in his production company with his, Dennis Dugan or somebody directing, when he actually has like something like Spanglish or, Punch Drunk Love or something like that, where somebody gets to kind of work with his talents.
I have a confession to make. This was one of the saddest days of my life. But I sat down and I watched his Halloween movie that he had for Netflix. I can't remember the name of it. And I laughed and I was like, I like this. Yeah. And then I had to like sit down for a minute and go, what's wrong with you? Are you okay today? Because everybody was saying they hated it and it was terrible. And I was like, I laughed. I thought this was funny.
My friend Conrado likes it too. So you're with I just thought I couldn't take his voice. The voice.
Oh, I know. It was
that movie.
It's not great, but I don't know. I was like, this is so
I actually know a lot of people who like that one. So you're not alone. Hey, I guess I love Fran Drescher. She's got a crazy voice, so to each their own. Well, my number 6 is maybe one that people don't think about as a rom-com, but I think it's I have Aladdin at number 6. The whole they say that it can't be a rom-com if you can take out the romance and the movie's exactly the same. I don't think that that's the case here. I think
no. He would never have pretended to be a sultan if it was not to get with Jasmine.
Exactly. And like the whole motivation for the character. And then I think that you need the comedy too. I think the comedy is obviously essential. All of what Rob Williams was doing. And it's really funny and charming, and the songs are great and the animation's great. It's one of the finest films that Disney has ever made. And so, yeah, it's great.
I agree. It's got great music.
Mm-hmm.
It's got great animation, really at the height of Disney and animation in the 90s. You know, they had one
Yeah,
banger after another.
Yeah, that Renaissance was really
Yeah.
special, and I think it's probably the most rom-com-y of the Renaissance.
Totally.
They almost
Totally.
all had romances, but this is the one that has the most comedy of any of them. So
Yeah.
I included it, and I thought about including Anastasia because I do love it, but it has less humor. So
Yeah, what's kind of sad, Rachel? Like,
I
and
don't know
you
what
know,
that. Can
she
you hear
got
that?
amnesia. She running around, her family's dead. She got amnesia, you know.
Yeah.
Today's episode of the podcast is sponsored by W Rated, the podcast where we willingly watch the world's worst rated movies. Join me, Daisy,
and me, Claire, as we break down the IMDb Bottom 100, choosing a different film from the list every episode.
We take a deep dive into the plot, production, release, and reviews, usually with a special guest, to uncover if these films are truly as bad as everyone says they are.
You can find us on Spotify, Apple, Good Pods, and anywhere else you find your podcasts.
So what's your number 5?
A movie that is problematic today, but I still love it. Pretty Woman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think it's that problematic. I think if people watch it, I mean, especially now where we're so like careful about sex work and things like that, and I mean, it is a fairy tale, but I don't think it's that problematic. I mean, he stands up for her. He punches Jason Alexander in the face.
Well, I think it's the whole paying for her services. You know, I don't know. I mean, I guess you're right on that aspect. Maybe it was more problematic back in the day. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
I've
mean,
heard
it
the
is
argument
definitely an
both
R-rated
ways.
film. I mean,
Yeah,
but I just if people should read this book on rom-coms that I interviewed. We'll have it on the podcast. Scott Meslow. It's the history of rom-coms, and the whole chapter on Pretty Woman is absolutely fantastic. It's so interesting because it started out as this like Sundance.
Yes, it was a bit
really
more serious.
gritty,
yeah.
Really,
it was going to be more gritty.
Disney, and then it went through all of this stuff, and it was released by Disney. It was their Touchstone, brand, and it's just so interesting to see how it basically is, you know, a modern day Cinderella, and
absolutely
two leads at the top of their game, absolutely,
totally. And this made Julia Roberts' career.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing with this, the necklace and her laughing. And, you know, I mean, she's the trope of the hooker with the heart of gold.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was a trope back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. And the whole scene where she gets them to she goes into the snooty store.
Oh, that's terrible. Like, you can't afford nothing here. And she comes back. Big mistake.
Yeah. I think it's underappreciated how big of a hit this was.
Oh, totally. This was everywhere.
Yeah, this made over $460 million in 1990 on a $14 million budget.
I know, it's crazy. It's
one of the biggest hits of all time as far as how much it made.
Yeah, because it was like, well, Richard Gere was already pretty hot, but like this, you know, Julia Roberts was like a rising star coming from this. And I'm hot and cold with Julia Roberts, but I think this is one of her better performances.
Yeah.
One of her better movies. I think they're great together. And this movie is so much better than The Runaway Bride that they did a couple of years later, a decade later. That movie sucks. But this one's so much better. And
this one is so much better. There's one scene that redeems Runaway Bride for me. I do love that scene where she tries all the eggs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's true in life, that so often it's easier to just go with whatever the people around us, you know, like, and because especially something that doesn't really matter. It's like, who cares? It's eggs. But like, I don't know. I like that idea of like, okay, she's going to figure out what eggs does she like the best. And she's going to try them all. And because she's just been kind of going with whatever other people.
Right. She doesn't really do things
she's
for herself.
with. Yeah. But yes, not a great.
Did you hear what Julia Roberts said she would be like the Pretty Woman character would be up to today? Did you read about that? Some kind of interview that like Richard Gere's character would have died a long time ago, and she would have been running his company. And I
can
was
see
like,
that.
girl, no, that's not what I want. Girl, he could have
For
died.
Vivian,
Like, you
though,
could
she
have
was
him die, but she's
she
still
was
gonna be a
pretty
rich woman. Like, go shopping. I don't know. It was like so
She
weird.
was
I was
pretty
like,
smart though. She was pretty.
but like, I was like, I don't want to see these characters in that situation that you
Yeah.
just said.
Well, that's a funny thing about this book on the rom-coms is that for all the ones that don't have sequels, there's a whole thing about the sequels, the various sequels that were proposed, and it is pretty fascinating to see what people
all
thought.
the failed stuff. Yeah.
And most of them, thank goodness, we didn't get most of them.
I've got that on my I've got that, on my library. So as soon as I finish this book, I'm reading that one, Rachel.
Oh, you'll love it. You'll love it.
Yeah.
And you'll love the interview. It was really fun. Well, my number 5 is where I have Father of the Bride.
Oh,
and
yeah.
This is one of the funniest movies of the 90s, in my opinion.
Totally.
Absolutely hilarious. And I love, this is just a formula that just works. I've loved every single movie made with a Father of the Bride label.
Oh, me too. Yeah.
I even liked the most recent one. I really enjoyed it. I think it's kind of underrated. It was
Andy Garcia popping up in that white suit. Like,
yeah,
that new one. Like, come on. Woo. Andy Garcia can still get it, people.
Yeah.
Still get it.
Yeah. And I liked the sort of the immigrant take that they had on the family and him wanting his daughter to marry a particular type of person and to have this particular kind of job and all that stuff. And so I there's things that it's not as laugh out loud funny as this one is, but I don't think they were ever going to get that. So I think it was a pretty good way to go. But this one is probably my favorite. The original, I mean, not the original. This one is probably my favorite out of the 5. I do enjoy the Spencer Tracy ones. I think they're fun. This is just so funny to me. I absolutely love.
I debated putting this on my list, but I didn't, for myself, really consider it that much of a rom-com. I thought it was like more like a family comedy.
Yeah.
But oh God, Steve Martin is just so good in this movie.
I can see that, good. But I think that there's actually 2 really great romances in it. Yes. I would say that Steve Martin and Diane Keaton have such amazing chemistry together. And and then of course Kimberly Williams, Paisley and George Newbern have good chemistry together. And
yeah, they do. It's like
so funny. And Frank short.
Oh my God, Rachel, my mom was so upset when the sequel came out. She's like, "You gonna make Diane Keaton pregnant in this movie?" She was aghast, and then she sat down and watched the movie and loved it.
Yeah,
but I'll just remember she's like, "Oh no."
I liked the sequel though because my mom had babies when I was a freshman in high school, and then once I was going to college, she had a baby when I was 16 and 18, and so those. It's sort of, it rang true, even though I didn't have.
I had to give the side eye to my mom at that. She goes, "Can you believe Diane Keaton pregnant?" And I was like, "Rachel, I had old parents. Okay? I'm gonna stay out there. I had old parents." I was like, "Wait a minute, you were like way older when you started having kids."
A very reasonable cock of this magnitude. Very reasonable price. Okay. And we did the math when Marissa and I ranked all these during the pandemic.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I remember.
That was a fun one. And I did the math, and it actually was a very reasonable cake of that magnitude. And in fact, I think we did the math, and the cake in the 1950s one with inflation and everything was actually more expensive than the cake in 1990. And I don't know. I love moments like when he sees when he hears his kids talking.
Oh yeah.
And then he puts his hand over his heart, or anytime they're playing basketball.
And he gives
Uh,
her the sneakers too.
mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah,
at the
and
wedding.
the scene when she flips out over the over the blender, it was really funny to us because my dad's like the worst at giving presents. He's just and my dad had just gotten my mom that blender for like her birthday or Mother's Day or something like that, and she was like, I liked it. It was he thought you might want to blend something someday, and that's all.
I
But
wouldn't
yeah,
mind a blender. I'll throw that out. I wouldn't mind a
yeah.
blender. The older you get excited when new grocery stores open and you get appliances.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, it's harder in the second one. It is harder to feel sorry for him when he can write a $100,000 check.
oh boy, man. The
The
midlife
drop of a
crisis he
hat.
has from that one. Like Steve Martin's at his peak in these movies. He's
But
so
it's
great.
still pretty sweet. And it like practically saved the pandemic for me, that part 3 that they did. Of all
That's
the
the one I didn't see.
of all the reunions and gimmicks and stuff like that they did during 2020, that was my favorite. It was so sweet, and to have like Florence Pugh playing Megan, and I was like, oh, I wish this was real.
Is that one still available to watch? Wasn't that one on Netflix?
No, I think it's just on YouTube.
That's on YouTube. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know why I thought it was on Netflix. I did miss that one though.
yeah, you should watch it. It was great. But yeah, I just love this. One of my favorite comedies, I think, of all time. I really love it. So what do you have at 4?
I debated this one. I saw it on lists because I don't know if it really counts, but I put Reality Bites.
Mm-hmm.
In 1994, Rachel, this movie spoke to me like no other movie. I was 14, going on 15. I was feeling it. I was feeling everything this movie was giving me. I love the soundtrack. I haven't watched this movie in a very long time. I wouldn't even know if it would hold up for me in that aspect. But this movie is the best representation of the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
So like,
I haven't seen it in a long time, but I have the same feelings about it, and remember really loving it.
Winona Ryder, like Ethan Hawke, like a group of friends, they graduate college, and then they're like, well, what do I do now? I can't get jobs in my field. She's trying to make this documentary. She starts dating Ben Stiller, and she gets her documentary made, and it turns out into something that would, like, one of the MTV shows. And she's disgusted with it. And you're rooting for the whole time for Winona Ryder and Ethan Hawke to get together. And Ethan Hawke just looks like one of the unwashed masses out there.
Right.
And the part where she's so depressed and she keeps calling the psychic. Mm-hmm. And you're like, you've got it. What was it? Like a $2,000, $3,000 phone bill. She's got to use her father's gas. Yeah, because that's what she gets for graduating college, a gas card from her father. So she doesn't have to pay for gas. She has to hustle that gas card to get money to pay that phone bill. But she's a mess of a person. Actually, everybody is kind of in their like early to mid 20s, and they're really trying to find their way in life. Like Ginny Garofalo, she's like she's promiscuous. I'm trying to remember that. The other movie, not that much, but
the other movie,
she's got her own things dealing with.
Yeah. The other movie I think of with Reality Bites is I think of Empire Records, which is not a rom-com, but I feel like they're very similar.
Yeah, exactly. But so it's about a group of friends. They're all going through their things, but you're rooting for for Winona Ryder, who's a mess of a person, to hook up with Ethan Hawke, who looks semi-clean. You know what? That was the look of the 90s. What am I talking about? Everybody had that kind of
the grunge,
grunge look.
Yeah, like, everyone wanted to be
you knew you were clean, but you still looked dirty, if that made any sense.
Everyone wanted to be Kurt Cobain. I mean, that was the thing.
The truth of the matter is, you had to live through that era to understand that. Brad Pitt went through a phase like that too, where he never looked like he was what? There was that.
My number 4 is Where I Have the Parent Trap. I had the original in my, I think I had the original in my 19.
Yes, you did. Yeah.
Yeah, my classics. I love it. And I love this remake.
Oh,
You know, we'll definitely have to do an episode just on rom-com remakes because there's so many good
totally.
ones.
There's so many good ones.
Yeah, and it
It's
is
such a delightful remake.
And most remakes are, you know, terrible, but it is a genre that seems to be able to handle it well, which is really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think this might be my favorite Nancy Meyers movie.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, Lindsay Lohan's obviously adorable. She's great, and she does
So
a good
good.
job. I think even better than Haley Mills of really creating different characters between the two girls, and
they're also different ages. I think Lindsay Lohan's playing just a little bit younger than Haley Mills.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I also like the little side romance between the
butler and
Jesse and the butler. Yeah, I love that. And
when he's in that Speedo, oh my gosh.
Yes. And you know, Natasha Richardson and Dennis Quaid have such good chemistry in this. And I mean, when you really think about it, the story is insane. That you wouldn't tell your child
these twins. Yeah. You get one, I get one. We're even Stevens.
And that you wouldn't tell them anything about their parent, and also you would withhold a seemingly nice person, you know, like you divorced, but like that you would keep them from their parent is like insane, and then you wouldn't tell them that they have a sibling is insane.
Yeah. And I do like how they make it different because they live in England, they live on the ranch.
Yeah.
And that they managed to go to the same summer camp. Amazing.
Right. Yeah.
It's great. It's great. I do think that we could use a remake of this movie done right.
Mm-hmm. Because we have a ranking episode of ranking all the Parent Traps, and
with the TV movies too, right?
Yeah, because there's the TV movies.
Come on, Disney Plus, you cowards! Put those TV movies on TV because one of the sisters has triplets, right?
Yeah,
that's one of the movies, right? Yeah.
Well, so she married. So I think it's Susan.
I think so.
I can't remember.
It's been a while.
Susan or Sharon. One of them. I think it's Susan who marries a man who has triplets.
That's right. You know, so it's like, come on, guys, there's triplets.
And then the second one of those is in Hawaii, and there's like a mystery element. It's not very good.
Not great, yeah.
But it's fun to watch them all. The Parent Trap 2 is not that bad. There was also, then there were the two triplet movies, and of course then this remake. And I think
this is primed for a remake. Really, you can also make it different than what came before by changing the ethnicity. Maybe making it with an Asian family or something like that. Like do it a little differently.
But in the day of social media, how do you hide?
That's another thing too. Maybe make it a period piece. Like maybe stick to in the 80s or something to make it a little bit more difficult. Where you can't, because it's like that's the problem with horror movies too. Like use your cell phone, call for help. Right. You can't always be stranded in the middle of somewhere. You know. Yeah. So I would make it maybe 80s,
I don't know if I trust Disney right now after
I don't know. That might be
that Home Alone remake. Oh my gosh, what a disaster!
But I think that they could make it work, and they could change it up a bit to to make it fresh and to make it a bit different than the others, but still have the same vibe.
Yeah, I'd watch it. That's for sure.
Oh God, Rachel, I put that out into the world, and it's going to come back to bite me. It is, isn't it?
Yeah. All right. What do you have at 3?
I have The Truth About Cats and Dogs.
Oh, okay.
This is another movie that spoke to me too. Now I'm 16 when this movie comes out. I'm watching it in the theater, and I'm like, "That's right. All these guys love my pretty friends and not me." Because you're in your feelings at that age, and you're dumb and stupid. But it's Janine Garofalo. She plays a vet. She has a radio show. She gives advice. She has this really interesting kind of meet cute on the radio show to give advice to this guy. And they end up meeting, but she is insecure, not really. I mean, she's so pretty in this movie. I can't believe how he would not find her attractive in this movie. But who is her? Oh, Uma Thurman. I'm sorry, is her neighbor, and
Yeah,
they
it's kind of a
become friends.
Cyrano type plot.
Right. Yes, exactly. Cyrano's where she's like, pretend to be me, and they hit it off, and they're dying, and she's a model, and she's also lying, reading books, pretending that she's smart and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's like it's a fun movie. I really like it. It spoke to me a lot. I think everybody can relate to those feelings of like liking somebody and they just totally into the gorgeous one because they're gorgeous, right?
Yeah.
He's a bit shallow in that aspect, But like I was like, come on. Janine Garofalo is cute in this movie. How do you not see it until, the end? But this is a fun movie.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
Well, my top 3 are really kind of a tie. It's a really hard time. Yeah.
I get it.
But I did put Clueless at 3. And even though it is like an iconic movie in my life,
yeah,
the only reason is just because just the romance side of it is less important to me than the comedy side of it. Like I'm one of those people, I don't really care that she falls in love with her ex-stepbrother. A lot of people have a huge problem with that, whatever.
Well, they're not even related by blood.
They're not related by blood.
It's so funny. They don't.
He's not her stepbrother at the moment.
No, but here's the thing, Rachel. Too, they're like he was her former stepbrother, and I was like, he's in college. She's what, a junior? Mm-hmm. There's an age difference there. Yeah. Again, it's the 90s. Nobody cared about that back then. No, they really didn't, Rachel.
Her dad was barely married to.
Yeah, right. But I love how people were
was like 8 years ago,
and I was like, he's so much older than she is. And no one cares about that. I love it. I love it because nobody did back then, Rachel. You know that. Nobody cared about ages back then.
And I don't know how, if I think he's new. Like he's new to college. So I don't think they're really that, she's probably 17 and he's 19. I don't think they're that big of a difference as far as age.
He's older than 19 in that movie.
I think he's just starting. Don't they say about freshman psych?
I don't know. I thought she was 16. He's got to be like 20. Now, to me, if he was 19 and she was 17, I know some people still have a problem with that. Mm-hmm. But that's still closer in age than somebody in their 20s to 17.
I think he's a freshman. He says, are you taking freshman psych? I
always thought he was at least over 20. Not super older than her, but at least 21. That was my interpretation.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong on that.
but
it's still cute.
Either way, I did put it 3 because the romance is less important to me than the comedy.
Right. Yeah.
But I do love it has so many quotable lines. It's so funny. It's got those Jane Austen roots to it. It's got the Emma roots.
It is a great modern interpretation of Emma.
It came out my freshman year of high school, and I literally remember going to high school after seeing the movie. I think it came out in the summer, but seeing the movie and then going to high school and being like, oh my gosh, she was absolutely right.
Absolutely
the way she describes all the clicks and the way she described, all this stuff. And
it was a sophomore, I think.
And the fashion was so influential. Totally. And
we were all wearing that. Well, yeah. I was not wearing that.
I never could.
Because I was not wearing that because those stripes and those colors were not good on my hefty self at that point. So, no. But I wished I was wearing that.
It's
was
so
not a stylish
funny,
person.
and I love Cher and Dion as characters,
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think that it's hard to make the kind of, in a way, it's easier to make the popular kids the mean girls, kind of a thing, and to make them so sympathetic and empathetic,
Yeah.
and I am like totally in love with Josh. What? And I love her dad so much. It's like I couldn't be more proud than if they were actual grades.
I remember seeing the very first time I saw this movie, it was a packed theater. I went with my mother and my sister. This was the luckiest of luck. It was a heat wave. We were so miserable. The air conditioner was broke, and my dad's like, "We can fix it." And I was like, "No, just buy a new one." He refused to buy a new air. Rachel, I grew up without air conditioner because he refused to buy a new air conditioner. It kept freezing over. Remember how the air conditioner used to have ice in it?
Yeah.
People don't have to suffer this way anymore. And so we were like, let's just get out of the house. We were miserable. And I was like, hey, let's go to the movies and see Clueless. I was digging my way to try to see this. And I never saw my mother laugh so hard when she got robbed, and he was like, lay on the floor, and she goes, I can't. It's Valentino.
It's an Aaliyah. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. And she was just like, my mother laughed so hard. And also when she was driving and she just went, oopsie. And my mother was like,
should I leave them a note? Yeah. I love it. It's one of my favorite movies ever.
It is. It's great.
Yeah, it had to be high. The ones I have for 1 and 2, I do think are just like a hair better as far as the romance. That's the only reason.
I live in fear.
But I do love it
that they will remake this movie one day. I am also surprised. You
can't remake it. Like, what are you gonna do? I mean, it's just another version of Emma.
Exactly, but people don't realize that, and I live in fear. And I'm surprised they've never tried to make a music that
they
I'm
did
aware
have the
of.
TV show. They did do there was
a musical.
Yes, there was a treatment that didn't. I don't think it quite made it to Broadway. I think it had tryouts, so maybe it sucks. But I remember Dove Cameron from The Descendants. She was in it, but it didn't. I don't think it made it to Broadway, so it's probably terrible. But.
So I don't remember the TV show that much. I didn't watch it. I was already aged out by the time. I was aged out of that type of show by the time that aired.
Yeah.
But I do feel like somebody will not realize that it's Emma, because they wouldn't, and say, let's just remake Clueless.
Yeah. And I mean, the whole Haitian scene is one of the great things ever in a movie. It is absolutely hilarious. We could just hop up to the kitchen, rearrange things, and we could all party with.
When she accidentally went on the freeway and started to panic.
Yeah, I love that scene so much.
It's so great.
Because that actually happened to me when my dad was taking me driving, and he's like, then we ended up on the freeway on the belt loop.
Oh, no.
And I was like,
oh gosh, I know.
Like, hold on to the wheel. Very well.
Oh my God.
Dion and I are friends because we know what it's like for people to be jealous of us. So, what do you have at 2?
I've got You've Got Mail.
Yeah, same.
We've talked a lot about this movie in the past. It's great. Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan have this just special bond. It's a special chemistry that just shines in a movie, in their movies.
Another remake that's great.
That is true. Yep. Yeah. Another remake that's great. I mean, this is a solid movie completely.
Yeah, I love it. It's very quotable as well. Another great Nora Ephron script.
Absolutely.
And I like that she fell in love with Generoso Franco. There's been way more on leather jackets than they're worth, but you don't fall in love with fascist dictators. He ran Spain, and I think this has a great supporting cast. Everybody's so good. When I get out of this elevator, my eyes lasered. I love Dave Chappelle. He's so good in it.
Oh, he's so good in this movie. He really is.
Yeah. I love Downey Coleman as his dad. He's really good.
I do love the dynamic that he is with his aunts, because with the little girl is his grandfather's daughter. Yeah. And he has this weird sort of family.
And I related to that.
No, that's my aunt.
I related to that though, because my mom, had these when I was
Yeah, same. I did
kid,
too.
when
I
I was
related to
older.
that too. I had that incident. Yeah.
And
Rachel, one day I should tell you about how my cousin became my aunt and then divorced my uncle and went back to being my cousin,
oh my
which she
god,
always was. But yeah, so families are weird.
yeah, that's right. We're an American family. I love
That
Debbie
sounds
Pullman.
a little weird, but nobody was related by blood, Rachel, when I say that. Just me
Okay.
to the cousin.
Right. When I love it when he's like, they're called readers, Dad. Don't romanticize them. It's just a
Yeah,
great
it's
script.
great.
It's so funny. I love when he's like, this is a credit card machine. Zip. Credit card.
Oh, I know.
And they do a great job of making you really want them to be together by the end. And she has changed enough by the end, and he's changed. And for me, I know some people are like, he's still such a jerk, but I think he
No,
has.
he's changed.
Yeah.
He has
And
changed. There's that beautiful moment too when she goes to the bookstore that's overtaken, like
yeah.
this megaplex of a bookstore, and
Oh,
she
I
just
love
sits
that
there in the
scene.
children's section. Yeah.
Reading Skating
And it's
Shoes.
like, I think that they did the right amount of updates to this,
Mhm.
for the shop around the corner.
I mean, and the
to make
irony
it,
is
like,
that the Fox books would be the one that would be on the outs now, which is interesting because
Totally.
of the
Yeah.
internet. But I love the whole riff on the Godfather. And when he realizes that, oh, maybe my full life philosophy based on the Godfather wasn't right. And
Oh, yeah.
all things should be personal, should start out as being personal. And he's like, what? And that's when he brings her daisies. Daisies are the friendliest flower. And she's sick and everything. And that's such a great scene. And
It really is.
mhm. It's
You know.
it's so good. I wanted it to be you. I wanted it to be so badly. So
Yeah, I mean,
perfection.
he really does redeem himself, and she does too in a point. They both grow in this movie. They really do. And I know some people don't see it, but I'm like, it's there,
Yeah.
it's there.
All right. Well, what's your number one?
Oh, my number one is Clueless. I had to put
Ah,
this baby at number one.
yes.
I love it. This was like my favorite
So
movie
good.
in the 90s. I saw it. I've lost count how many times I've seen it. It was just my everything when I was a teenager. It it's so funny because it's a year after Reality Bites. Reality Bites spoke to me in 1994. Clueless spoke to me in 1995.
Yeah. It's a perfect film. I love it so much. Well, my number one is While You Were Sleeping.
Yeah.
I genuinely think this is a perfect script. I absolutely just love what it has to say about loneliness and how important being part of a family is, and the chemistry between Sandra Bullock and Bill Pullman is just, I think, really great. And I think it's sweet and funny. And the scene at dinner is perfect. Argentina's make great beef, beef
Yeah.
and Nazis.
Oh my God.
I love that scene.
Very
It's
true.
so good. Mary mashed the mashed potato. I love that scene so much, and I love the scene when they're opening the presents and she just like kind of looking around at the Christmas and all of that. And I think that it has some genuinely really funny parts, and the lean in. He was leaning. So yeah, I just love it. I think
It is great. It's a great
such
movie.
a great movie, and it's so
But
romantic.
I watched this. I think I watched this in the early 2000s. I missed it when it first came out, and I caught it much later.
It's true.
But it is a great movie.
And we should probably say that this list is somewhat impacted by the fact that we were teens.
Teens, absolutely.
Our age, if you think of our age, because I know there can be people outraged that neither of us have 10 Things I Hate About You.
Oh, totally too. Yeah.
Because I like it. I think it's a lot of fun.
I don't care for it. I'll be there. Sorry, guys. It did speak to me.
I think it has some pretty good laughs. But It came out in 1999, so it was, when
Yeah, it
I
was
was
at the
starting
tail end
college.
for
It
myself.
just sort
Yeah.
of missed it for me
Yeah.
to be a
Same.
favorite. When these are some of my all-time favorites. Another one that I really wanted to include, but I took it off. I love Defending Your Life.
Yes,
with,
yeah.
Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep. That's a
a good one
favorite.
too.
And then
I thought about 9 Months too with
Yeah.
Hugh Grant and Fools Rush In. But
that's a really good one.
yeah.
Groundhog Day, hilarious.
Yes.
Wait.
And oh yeah, no, that's a 90s movie. Yeah.
And The American President. That's one that I do
See,
love.
I didn't
that
think
one.
of that one as a rom-com. I thought of that one as like
Just
my
a
memory of
romance.
it is it's a straight romance. Yeah, but it's been a while since I've seen it.
I mean, it's got the Sorkin script, so there's that like dialogue.
There's French Kiss too with Meg Ryan.
French Kiss, I love that. So it was just a great
So
time.
many, yeah.
It was a great time for rom-coms. So, but I know that 10 Things I Hate About You is a fan favorite, so I get that, but not for me. So we asked our patrons what they picked, and you should definitely check out the Patreon. You want to be part of these rankings. It's a lot of fun. And Colleen, she says, these are not in any particular order. She has You've Got Mail, Sleepless in Seattle, Never Been Kissed, Clueless, Singles, The Brothers McMullen, She's the One, The Object of My Affection, Muriel's Wedding, Reality Bites, Truth About Cats and Dogs, She's All That, which is another favorite that was on our list. I don't love it.
Object of My Affection is good too, but I don't know if I'd consider that one a rom-com. It is, but it's like kind of sad too in a way.
The other big one that neither of us had was My Best Friend's Wedding. And
no, I don't. I can't.
I guess because you don't.
I don't know what's wrong with me. I just don't like that movie.
I do, and I do really appreciate that it subverts expectations and goes with the because she's awful and she doesn't deserve to to end up with the man, but it was still pretty brave of them to do that with the ending. I do like it, but but it's just not. Like I said, these are some of my favorite movies, like of all time, and I was really trying to go with the ones that meant the most to me at that time.
Same.
And so, but 10 Things I Hate About You, Chasing Amy, that's a fun one. Pretty Woman, The Cutting Edge, While You Were Sleeping, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, The Wedding Singer, Notting Hill, The Parent Trap. So there's a lot there.
Those are all good.
Yeah. And Steve Juan, he says it's missing one of my favorites, Singles, which I have never seen. I don't
believe I've seen that one either.
Yeah. So cool. And so that is their picks. On Twitter, one of our followers said The Mirror Has Two Faces as her favorite. And that's like the most Barbara movie ever made.
That is true. I completely forgot about that one.
Not a Barbara movie. If people haven't seen it, Mirror Has Two Faces. It's about this woman who gets in this relationship with this man who they decide not to have sex. But they just to get married. They want companionship, but of course they fall in love with each other. It's fun. But
Lauren Bacall steals the show in that movie.
Know.
Yeah.
And then Waiting to Exhale. That's actually, it's interesting because he has a whole chapter in this rom-com book about Waiting to Exhale.
Yes.
And I don't really think of it.
I don't think of it as
I don't really think of it as a rom-com. I
don't either. We talked about that one in the New Year's ranking, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think of it as a rom-com now.
Yeah.
But
it's fun. I would probably say The Best Man. I think it's more of an outright rom-com if you're
also
which is fun.
This one borders on rom-com and like romance, but How Stella Got Her Groove Back is also really good.
And that is a sexy movie.
Totally. I mean, they are so hot together.
Really are.
Of course, it's Angela Bassett. She's forever hot, but like
and nobody's hotter than Taye Diggs. Oh my
gosh. Man, like they are like you gotta go in, watch that with a fan. You're gonna be woo.
So there you go.
Steam it up.
So my 12, I have While You Were Sleeping, You've Got Mail, Clueless, The Parent Trap, Father of the Bride, Aladdin, Notting Hill, Emma, Ever After, The Cutting Edge, Sleepless in Seattle, and The Beautician and the Beast. So that was like the soundtrack to my life in the 90s.
That's a
Basically,
solid list.
this and Jurassic Park. That was like the movies I watched.
Oh my gosh, me too. Constantly Jurassic Park.
Yeah.
Oh, and Karina.
Oh yeah, that one's so sad though.
It's so sad, but I literally I had a bummer of a summer one year, and I wasn't feeling it, and
Yeah.
I had the VHS. I bought like a used copy from the VHS rental, the rental place,
Uh-huh.
and I just would watch it like every day or every other day, and it would make me
Yeah.
feel better. Like I could quote that movie, and it just
Yeah.
I survived the summer, due to Whoopi Goldberg and Karina.
Well, I saw somebody put My Girl on their list for
Girl, no, he
rom-coms.
dies
Who
in
was
that.
putting
Come
that?
on.
Like, you can't have that on your list of rom-coms with that, especially that ending. But it's like when the relationship is they're 11, it doesn't count.
No. This is like when I read somebody put Endless Love on their rom-com, and I was like, what's wrong with you?
It's not a rom-com. People are crazy.
There's a new, like, people are putting rom-com, what do they call that? Romantic comedy dramas. And I was like, that's not a thing. That's not a thing.
If you want, some people say dramedies. I've heard that term.
Yeah, but it's
around.
literally like romantic comedy dramas. And I was like, that's not a thing.
I reject even for dramedies for My Girl.
Absolutely.
It's a tragedy.
Absolutely.
What are you saying?
That's a coming of age movie.
Yeah.
It's not,
Yeah,
it's about friendship. It's a coming of age. It has, no.
Yeah.
Dude. Oh yeah, because look how funny it is. She's crying about he doesn't have his glasses on. The movie that moment wrecked me as a kid.
Drama.
Oh my gosh. I was like, no way. Now My Girl too? That's a different story.
I don't know if
because there's a romance. Yeah, she goes to find out. I forgot where she travels. She goes to find out more about her mother.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, she has a romance in that one. So if you want to say that one's a rom-com, okay, but not My Girl.
Well, why don't you go over your list real quick?
Sure. Mine is Clueless, You've Got Mail, The Truth About Cats and Dogs, Reality Bites, Pretty Women, The Wedding Singer, Blast from the Past, Boomerang, Never Been Kissed, Gross Point Blank, Straight Talk, and The Beautician and the Beast.
Great. Well, this was a lot of fun. Let us know what you think of our picks of the movies we talked about, but also what you think of our rankings and what your ranking would be. We'd love to hear in the comments section or on Twitter, or if you want to do your own video or your own post, just tag us and we'd love to hear it and we'd love to see it. And check out the Patreon where you can be a part of these ranking episodes and share your picks. And Terry, where can people follow you?
I'm at Twitter at Flurry Heaven.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all of our social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, make sure you're following the podcast, Hallmarkies Pod and Hallmarkies Podcast, all of our social media. If you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews, 5 stars. We could really, really, really use that right now. There was this update to the iTunes that and the iPhones that's really screwed up all podcasts. So any help you can give us, any help you can give us in the world of iTunes would really, really, really help us out right now. And if you are listening on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that so much. And like I said, we have the Patreon group and the merch store. So take a look at that. And thanks so much. This was a lot of fun. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye.